I think in relationship, throughout, I come in contact with so many different personalities.
Yeah.
And I need so many different personality sets for different positions within the organization. And you have vendors, you have consultants, you have all that. And you've got to recognize, there may be extremely difficult personalities, and you've got to be able to segment off that and just focus in on what that part that they're really good at and enhance that. And, and just let them do that part.
All right, welcome back. We're having this sort of side discussion. I thought we hit record. I think that there's lots of levers for success and how do you achieve success in your business. I think one lever I would like to kind of explore a little bit is this idea of being attached to the degree that it is healthy for the business and for you as the business owner. And so the other side of that is detaching emotionally. I'm saying emotionally, but detaching mentally, emotionally, from the outcome that you're trying to drive so that that thing can actually come to fruition. And we're kind of getting into a little bit of a philosophical premise here, but yeah. So, I have a perspective on it, and you're talking about your side.
All right. So you hit it. Start with your perspective, because go.
So I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think for myself personally, I'm a very relational person. Just understanding myself, I'm very much about connection. So I will try to connect myself to the humanistic piece of whatever I'm doing, whether it's the task or whether it's the client, or I feel like there has to be a relationship there to what I'm learning, the skill that I'm building, the person that I'm working with. I feel like there has to be a connection that is real and genuine for it to have worth or really output, right? And over the years, I've realized, okay, that's not true. I can be that type of person where I value relationships and I value connection, where other people are not, and that's fine because everybody's built different. But it doesn't necessarily have to rule and reign over everything that I'm doing in my business. And I think that unlock for me has helped me to let go of the outcome that I want and let the business produce the outcome that it's going to produce. So there's inputs that have to happen for those outputs to happen. And I'm aware of what those are, but I'm just detaching myself from both inputs and outputs and saying it's more of a math equation. And I'm letting it do what it's doing. So I'll make it more real.
All right. Yeah.
More real is, this is true to me and maybe resonate with someone, but as a small business owner, what you're making and how you're, the revenue coming in is, and I have a service business, right? So we deliver content and it's an agency. So what you're delivering and how you're making money is, you're paying people to help, run your company, but it's largely, I don't want to say commingled, but it's, you're self-employed, right? So what you're making for the business, it's not this thing where you have outside investors, you have shareholders, you have all these, accounts of people that have to be looking in and looking at all your accounts. It's just me and my wife. We're looking at our accounts.
And different for me, but yeah.
Right. So we're looking at it's very different. So we're looking at our stuff. And so I have a relationship to the money in a different way than you do, right? Because you're running a bank. There's a lot more complexity to it. You have a lot more people to account to. So what I recognized is I'm too attached to the flow of money, like what the money means. Okay. So what the money means whenever I sign a new account is a lot. It means a lot to me and my family.
It's a lot closer direct relationship.
Correct.
So every dollar earned, a greater portion of that dollar is going directly to you.
Correct. Versus if I'm running a bigger business of the same type or a different kind of business like you're running, there's a lot more moving parts. It takes longer to get to the impact.
Well, see, and the things that I think people realize is because you directly impact on that, I bet you're making way better decisions than all of these private equity firms.
Yes, 100%. There's a lot more margin there, right? First, there's a lot more decisions that are made just A
well,
B.
and two, when they're dealing with somebody else's money, there's no downside for them. Okay, they don't make more money.
Correct, yeah.
But they're risking everybody else's.
Yes.
And that...
So for me, and I think this applies to a lot of small business owners because they're, what they make this year in revenue is not too far of a jump from what they're going to take home.
Correct.
Small business. And then we talk about mid-size, there's a lot more jumps. What I determined is I have to detach myself from that relationship of the money comes in and here's the impact that it has. I need to remove myself from that and almost put more steps for the money to travel like it would in a bigger business for me to let the business grow. And it's interesting because we're growing again in a way that we haven't before. And I'm kind of almost emotionally detached from the new revenue. And it's hard for me because of the impact it could have directly. I have to almost not let it have that impact immediately and push it off.
Well, I think the fact that, also in order to be in that position, you were prudent to begin with. So now your personal life is not, oh my goodness, I got to keep flowing more stuff into it. And
it's not a burden.
And that's what a lot of people really put their mistakes in. As soon as they incrementally get up, their debts incrementally go up too.
Right.
And they continue on instead of wiping it off. I need to stop at a level to jump to the next levels.
Right.
So
the point really is, I think that, going to your business, going to work every day and in a way that you're detached from the outcome, but you're going to do everything about, your inputs are still the same. In fact, the inputs probably get better because you're not, the energy that takes to think about the outcome and, worry about the outcome is not there. So you have much more efficiency in what you bring to the table every day. So the outcome typically always goes up. So for me, I think that idea, and Jocko Willink talks about it in his book, Extreme Ownership. He talks about detaching, and talks about it from a military standpoint and then from a leadership standpoint. What I'm talking about is from just a personal work, right? And I think it applies to it could apply to anyone in any position, but especially for small business owners that have so many hats they're wearing, so many plates spinning. If you can detach from the personal relationship you have with the outcome of any one of those, you have to guard yourself because you don't want to fully detach because then you don't care about the outcome. You have to care, right? But assuming you do, I think that that's a huge unlock for certain people out there that are just basically, if I simplify all this, they care too much, right? And they could care a little less and they would get back more effectiveness and more efficiency because they're not so close to the impact. So for me, that's where the detachment actually equals success. Whereas I'm just too much in the minutia. I need to detach a little bit.
I can see that, I think, but I think for you to be in that position, I think people, originally and at some point have to be so close to decisions that they impact them immediately.
100%.
So in the future, they make better decisions and they know how impactful little things are to.
Yeah. I think it's just eventually going from where you're in the minutia because you need to be there.
Yeah.
I'm as you know, I'm trying to grow a garden and I'm learning about plants and fertilizer and all these cycles and everything. And this is close to this other thing I've been kind of pondering, and that is when you put a new plant in the ground, and talk about landscaping really more than gardening, but it's the same thing. You gotta let that plant get established. And there's a period of time that it takes for the plant to get established, meaning it goes through shock. It's got to have lots of care, sometimes gentle care to get it to root. And then once it starts to root, you've got to have a good solid cycle of feeding it sun, water, all of these things, so that once it roots, some plants you don't really have to do anything with. And I look at business the same way. It's like, they say the first 3 years, it's like 3 to 5 years. If you're in the minutia, because you need to be, you're establishing that business. And once it's established, you potentially could detach more and more and more to the point where, you're not really needed as much. And that's the trouble I've had is like, I want to be needed, right? You get to start psychoanalyzing.
Well,
it.
as soon as you get not needed, then you can.
Then
you've got a company you can sell.
Well, this is the opportunity and fear conversation we were kind of having before in the other episode about tariffs. It's like if you lean into the opportunity of, well, I'm not needed, and that's a good thing because now I can go deploy myself in all these other ways and I can grow again. That's a positive thing versus I want to be needed, and well, that's really kind of operating. You're stunting the growth. Of that business. So that's my side of it. And if you take this and apply, I think you were saying something about employees, right? And
that is more, I think in relationship, throughout, come in contact with so many different personalities.
Yeah.
And I need so many different personality sets for different positions within the organization. And you have vendors, you have consultants, you have all that. And you've got to recognize, there may be extremely difficult personalities, and you've got to be able to segment off that and just focus in on what that part that they're really good at and enhance that. And, and just let them do that part, you know?
And you have to be able to absorb whatever personality hits you, whatever way. You might have somebody that's really abrasive. You might have somebody that's very gentle and needs to be coaxed out of their cubicle kind of thing. And so as a leader, you've got to be able to take it on the chin if it needs to be, or, set someone back in their place if it needs to be.
But, and that goes forth in general in business, you have to use two things. You got to use your own eyes and you got to, feedback loop, what did that person say? What did they do? How do the actions reflect?
Yeah.
And, really detach yourself away of how you feel that person. You may genuinely like them, but then the actions they do are contrary to what they said they were going to do.
Yes.
And you need to detach how much you like them away. That can be an issue too.
Yeah.
So
that's tough.
Yes.
That's really tough. That takes practice, because I think some people are naturally, able to look at the
because what happens is you continually give benefit, a doubt. And then, you know,
because you got somebody who you really like, but they aren't performing, or you got someone who's performing, but you don't really like.
Yeah, so then maybe you need to segment them away from other people, but they're not doing anything wrong. It's just wait a second. I don't know. That's separate. That just
that in the sales world, that's a really big red flag where you have a really high performing salesperson, but everyone hates them. And it just destroys your culture. It's like you got to get rid of that person.
That person's high performing, but what overall business is not performing?
Yeah. Internal culture is suffering,
and overall sales are down. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's a really interesting kind of more psychoanalytic, discussion about our role as business owners, as leaders, as employers, managers, all of those things. And the amount, the people that I've really admired as entrepreneurs who have done big things. And I don't mean the Elons of the world. Like I'm talking about real people that no one knows. That they've scaled companies and they've done stuff that's very, high integrity and all of that, both from just the moral standpoint, but also from a business economical standpoint, is that this is what I've recognized in their character as they transact. They're able to come to the table with an employee or with a new investor or whoever, and they have that relationship purely as a business relationship. It can become more, but it's really more of that detachment is there. They're focused. They're focused on growing the business.
This is what we're delivering.
And they're not allowing the negative comment from this employee or, this negative thing that happened in the market to derail them from their focus and what they're building.
Yeah, they're not trying to be liked on a personality. They're trying to be
but they're also
on
not
delivering.
They're also not mean, and they're also not degrading. They're also not trying to step on someone else to get up. It's almost like they are this behind the scenes kind of person, but they are leading from the front. It's really interesting. Yeah.
No, as you get older, it's like you got to watch out for the most likable person, especially in the sales side.
Yes.
As soon as you start liking that salesman, wait a second.
Yep.
Nope, put them aside and let somebody else deal with that company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so difficult. And I think for me especially, because I value relationships and I think that the connection is a big deal. So it's hard to I can't have that depth of connection with everyone and with everything. It's just not scalable.
No.
But if I can detach to the degree that I can still care and be involved, but not it be such a deep thing, then it's rewarding. It's rewarding for everyone, because I don't think what I've realized is most people don't want that anyways.
They don't.
You know? Yeah.
That's a good one.
All right, cool.